All right, let's get this show on the road. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and welcome to twitch.tv/WriterGreg. And I am so happy to be participating in Writer's Conduit 2021 and sharing with you, outlining your novel with the Snowflake Method. So, thank you so much for being here, and we'll be having more people join. And we have a very, very full hour. So let's get to it. So I love seeing some people who are some regulars and some people who are new. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you had a great time at the previous, and we'll have a great time in the ones yet to come. So yeah, don't blink or turn away. That is the truth. We have a very full presentation today, and I'm excited to be sharing it with you. And so let's get to it. All right. That's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. So hello, I am writer Greg, and I am a clean new adult fiction author who focuses on writing engaging fiction for adults, but is clean enough to be read by kids. You can find me at writergreg.com, and of course here at twitch.tv/WriterGreg, and also I have a Linktree account at WriterGreg. And because there's so much information, I have 40 slides and about 50 minutes. So sit back, enjoy the ride. The slides and notes will be made available after the presentation. And hopefully, we'll be able to get some questions as well. And so if you have any questions, please look at the little lemon channel thing down below in the chat. Those are my channel points, and you can use the Ask a Question channel point redemption, and any questions that are not filled in or not answered, we'll have a follow-up stream and possibly a full-blown workshop. So I'm really excited about this, but we only have an hour. And thank you, James, for the example of how to ask a question. So let's get into it. Okay. When preparing for a novel, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, is there are two major methods of preparing, and there's two ends of the spectrum, of outlining. We have outlining where we set up a tent pole to provide a structure first, and then we place the fabric of the tent over it. Discovery writers or pantsers, they get the fabric and all that and then add the poles afterwards to provide the structure. Both ends of the spectrum come up for the same idea, a well-structured dwelling. Order isn't important. Whether you put up your poles first or you put up your poles last, that doesn't really matter, but it is important to have poles eventually in your tent. And also, this is a spectrum. No one is a pure outliner, and no one is a pure discovery writer. It's a spectrum, and you can fall anywhere in between. Okay, and today what I'm going to be sharing is the Snowflake Method by Randy Ingermanson, where he combines outline and discovery methods into a good process that will be able to help both. This is presented as a third alternative, and you can find more about this at the link down below on the bottom of the screen. And I see this as a really good middle ground between the two extremes of writing an outline and pure discovery writing. Now, I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. It is presented in a very entertaining way and contains some great information. Now, I will be presenting the 10 steps of this method, but I am going to include some of my interpretation. Hence, that's why I say with mods at the top. Now, a little bit of interpretation. Disclaimer. I am the most outliningest outliner who's ever outlined. Yet, I still benefited greatly learning the skills from the Snowflake method to help me have some spontaneity and have some good process in my novel writing. So let's get into it. Now, when you start with the Snowflake method, and you can see the little image that he has here on his book, you start with a simple idea, not a simplistic idea, but a simple idea, such as this triangle here. You add details with each version or each generation or each step. And he recommends a 3-act structure. That's why we have the triangle. And then each step will add more triangles and more triangles and more triangles so that we can then come into a fully detailed, rich novel that is well balanced and exciting and with good structure. Now, what if you don't want to do a 3-act play? What if you want to do a 4-act structure? The principles that we're describing here with the Snowflake method remains the same. It doesn't matter if you start with a 3-act structure or a 4-act structure, or if you go really crazy with different plot outlines that you can have. And there are many wonderful strengths you can start with regardless of how you want to start your book. And here's just some crazy examples. So the different structures have different strengths that you can use in preparing your novel. And this is where you can do your discovery writing. You can have as few points as you wish, or you can be an outliner and have as many points as you wish. And that is what will help you get started. And if this were a workshop, which I hope to do in the future, we would go through each of these different points, but because of how much time we have, we're just going to jump straight into it. And please remember, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat redemption below. Okay, so like I said, Randy Ingermanson, he likes starting with the 3-act structure. However, when I encourage people to outline their novel using the Snowflake method, there are many wonderful places to begin, such as the 7 plot points, the plot dot, which has 9. There's the 15 romance beats, the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, the villain's journey, and you have multiple choice, where you could put all of these ideas together and you could be able to have a much richer start, and then just add it on before. And we're going to cover all of these briefly, and please don't freak out about taking notes. All of the slides have detailed lists and links to the original sources so that you can have these after the presentation. So please don't worry about that, because this is a lot of fun information. All right, so I love this movie Sneakers, and if we were doing this as a workshop, we would workshop the different ideas together. And where appropriate in the different steps, I'll be using this Sneakers. It's a movie from 1992 to illustrate some of the different points. Now, this is not a typo, all right? This is not a typo where I'm starting with step 10, write your novel. It is really important to remember the objective of the Snowflake method is to have a full book draft at the end of this process. And for those of you who consider yourselves discovery writers or pantsers, you can start step 10 at any point in this process. Once you feel you have enough information down to get going, hey, go for it and write that first novel. Now, I favor outlining, so I go through all 9 steps and then I write my novel. But if you want to do it earlier, you're more than welcome to do that. But it is important to remember that the steps are important to complete. And if you do You still need to do all 10 steps before your first draft, but if you don't, you need to think about doing them afterwards. And so that is where we're going to be beginning, with the end in mind. All right, here we go. The one sentence summary. The purpose of the one sentence summary is to help people instantly know whether they are in your target audience. So when we think about a one sentence summary, can you describe your book's plot in one sentence? And does it give enough ideas of genre or the type of novel, the age of the person who's going to be reading it? Does it convey that kind of information? And so please, you can take an hour or so just working on this one sentence so that you'll be able to understand and fulfill the expectations of your readers, or how to subvert them as well. Now, there's two ways you can write this sentence, and I do recommend them both. There's a teaser or a synopsis. When you think of a teaser, think of movie trailers, previews, cliffhangers, the back cover of the book. Or you can write a synopsis. This is the full story. There's no secrets. All of the spoilers are out there. Personally, I recommend that you write both of these to help get an idea of what you want to accomplish with this book. Okay, so the one sentence summary for Sneakers was: a burglar, a spy, a fugitive, a delinquent, a hacker, and a piano teacher. And these are the good guys. Now, this teaser does a great job of establishing the following concepts about the movie. First, there is an ensemble. This is a team adventure. They're all very different, and also that there will be good guys and there will be bad guys. So even though it's not telling us a lot about it, we can still glean a lot of information about what this movie or what your novel will eventually be about. Now, here's a synopsis of it. I'm not going to read this because of the time constraints we're under here, but this actually explains the story that happens during the movie. We get a better sense of the main character. We get a better sense of the conflict. And yes, there are two sentences here. Again, this is a tool to help. The Snowflake Method is a tool to help, not restrict your creative organizations. And I wrote this synopsis, so I had a sentence about the people and I had a sentence about the conflict. So if you want to do two sentences, no one's going to stop you from doing that. All right, then we have the one paragraph summary. So we had the first shape, and now we're going to add more details about it. The purpose of this one paragraph summary is to ensure that your story has a sound 3-act structure with 3 strong disasters and a clear moral premise. I think this is a good approach to start, regardless of what structure that you're going to be following, because almost all story structures, especially those in Western novels, Western storytelling, and what is expected of by agents and those who publish books, is you have a good 3-act structure. But you can see even here that they're talking about 3-act structure, 3 strong disasters. Even there, it's describing what should be in the paragraph. Okay, and I wrote 4 paragraphs. I needed 4 paragraphs to talk about what we're doing here, because we have the first paragraph is how they start. Then we have Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Again, this is not to the one paragraph concept doesn't tell you how much you can write, but this is what it is. And okay, Uncle Taban, as a pantser, this might spell disaster for you. Well, hopefully this will at least give you guidelines of where you're going. And if you feel comfortable, write your whole book and then make the one paragraph summary after you've written your book. You can do step 1, step 10, and then step 2. So this is just a way, but then you have your huge novel, and then you can go through all of the remaining 8 or 9 steps and then be able to add the structure before writing draft 2. Okay, yeah, and this is taken in bite-sized steps like this, very much so, sometimes Raven. Okay, so before we get too much farther into the story, the next step is to have character summary sheets. This is a way to understand who are the main characters of your story. What's their name? What's their goal? What's the conflict they have? And just a simple summary of their role in the story. If the story was told by this point of view, what's their teaser? What's their synopsis? Exactly, these are your character sheets for tabletop role-playing games. Because to take an example from Star Wars, the character synopsis for Han, Luke, and Leia would be completely different, but both very important to know. And this is an example of one of my characters that I started filling out, Kala Shikoba. And here I have the nickname, the alias, the background, and then she's a lawful good character, extrovert, introvert, extroverted, intuition, feeling, perceiving, all of this information. This is an example of one that I created for one of my stories. So going back to the teaser from the movie poster, how far do you build in a character arc in the character sheet, or is it too early at this point? Oh, well, one thing I forgot to mention here is down there in the little print down at the bottom, step 5 also works on developing the character sheet as well. It's okay to go a little far on your character sheet development in step 3 because you're going to need to do it in step 5 anyway. But at this point, I wouldn't go too far into it. I wouldn't go into too much detail because things might change in step 4, and you don't need to have super detail this early. We're just growing a little by little. And I would also focus on just the main character as of right now. All right, so for example, the character summary sheet for these people would be, Martin Bishop, he's the fugitive. Cosmo's the bad guy. Liz is the piano teacher. Donald Reese is the spy. And you're just going down through all of these, and you just provide the highest level of information, their name, and you go from there. Okay? Whew, time's running out. Okay, step 4. We had the one sentence, now we have the one paragraph, and now we get into step 4, the short, short one-page synopsis. Now, in the Snowflake Method, as written by Randy Ingermanson, you write a page to provide a high level of detail of the story, but more information than the previous paragraph. This is adding another level of triangles or details to the shapes that we had before. Now, this is how I do it. This is where we're going to start seeing a divergence between the Snowflake method and the method that I follow. What I do is then I take and write a couple of sentences for each point in a story structure that we described before. And this includes all the disasters, all the spoilers, and usually from the main protagonist's point of view. Okay, so, all right, you ready to go? Okay, So let's get into the next one. And again, slides will be made available after the presentation. Okay, 3x structure. What I would do is, if I was going to follow the 3x structure as Bridget McNulty, who created this graphic, I would write 1 or 2 sentences for every single plot point that is over there on in the column, and then that would be my story, my 1-page summary. Okay. And then we have the 7 plot points by Dan Wells. Links will be at the bottom of the screen. Your hook, your plot turn 1, your pinch 1, your midpoint, your pinch 2, your plot turn 2, and then your resolution. Very similar to the 3x structure, but not as many steps, but you can do it that way as well. Derek Murphy has his plot dot that has 9 points to it, this is a simplified and refined version of the hero story, where you go from the ordinary world, inciting incident, all the way back to the ordinary world again. And then we come into the hero's journey. This has a lot more plot points, where you have the external plot points were originally described by Joseph Campbell. Now, in his original book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, he actually defined 22 steps in his hero's journey. But you don't see that a lot in the synopses that are available on the internet. I really do love the graphic provided by Reedsy on the hero's journey, and I had to crop off the top half of it. But if you want to see the hero's journey as told through The Hobbit, you'll be able to get into this. And one extra point is, there's an external plot, and then there's the internal plot. So we get the introduction of the ordinary world, which then internally is the limited awareness of the problem. We get to the call of it to adventure, and we get the increased awareness of needs of change, and then we can just bounce back and forth between all of these points as we go through the journey. Okay, then we have the heroine's journey, very similar to the hero's journey, but it has I like using this one as well. And Chris Wrinkle at the mythcreants.com blog, of course, graphic and image, link will be provided. And yeah. And then Jack Fisher, he created what's called the villain's journey. And this is where you gather your minions, you taste your first triumph, but then eventually you end in endless struggle or self-destruction. So it's really interesting to see the difference between the hero's, heroine's, and villain's journey. And one fun thing about this process is, what if you want to mix and match and do multiple? You could, if you have a hero and a heroine and a villain, you could, for your 1-page summary, do all 3 of them. Meaning, from your male character's point of view, you can give him a hero's journey. From your heroine's point of view, you could give her the female, the heroine's journey, and then the villain, you would give that individual the villain's journey. That doesn't mean that you create a scene or a description. You don't always have to jump over to the villain's point of view, but at least you know it's there. You have more understanding of what's happening in the background, so that you can be better informed on what your hero and what your heroine is doing. And all right, the next one is, okay, romance beats. Romancing the Beat is a wonderful book to help those who may not be romantically inclined, me, on how to better write a romance novel, we have a lot of examples of the in sci-fi and fantasy of the hero's journey, but this is a great way if you want to write a romance novel, how to put that in there. And also for me, I actually threw in a romancing the beat. So I had the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, the villain's journey, and then I threw in a romance beat journey as well. So I could say, all right, the budding romance between hero and heroine, how did that develop? And I make sure that not only my characters are growing, my characters are going through their arc, but also they are have a budding love in a realistic and well-structured way. Right. Sometimes, Raven, I've had to use a very similar outline alongside the regular plotting method I use for writing paranormal romance. Exactly right. Exactly right. Okay, so um, here you could read this later, but I went through the movie Sneakers and I was using the 7 plot points. This is how long it could be for your one-page summary of what you are doing. All right. Okay, step 5. This is coming back to the idea of your character sheet. Now, this is, as I described previously when I was saying hero, heroine, villains, every character sheet, or at least the major characters that you need to do, they need to have their own synopsis. As John Barth said, everyone is necessarily the hero of his own life story. You may not show the information in the narrative of the novel, but at least that information is there, so it makes it feel more realistic. Because, like, what is Darth Vader doing while Luke and Leia and Han are doing that? And if you may never tell your people, but at least you know. You don't tell your readers what they're doing, but then you'll understand. So when the bad guy comes out at the end of the novel, you know what they've been working on, and it makes it so much more realistic. Okay, so there we have all of those. And for me, my example here, the 4 long page synopsis. This is step 6. For me, I do it in a spreadsheet. I know. You pantsers and discovery writers are already cringing because of this spreadsheet that we have here. But this is how to help me keep organized. And you can see over here, right here, or no, right here. I go through the 3 act structure, the plot dot, the heroes, the romance, and all of that, and I just go through and I fill in the line every single time. And so I know what a character is doing at all time. And this is my 4 page summary. Again, this is different than what is in the Snowflake method, but this is how it has helped me to be able to do it. Yes, this video will be available on my channel and on YouTube, and the slides will be made available after the stream. Okay, now we go back to your character Bibles. Now this is different than the character summary sheets. This is a character Bible. I told you I was going through a lot of information quickly. This is everything that I write about main characters. Now, your cobbler or your merchant who's on the side of the road that you only see mentioned once, you do not fill out this whole thing. You may only use one name in this person. And you may just fill out the names. You may fill out some physical characteristics. And again, I didn't. You guys know what the physical characteristics. You can you can delve into that. But I believe that the main characters, you need to have all of this information, here. Okay, and that's step 7. Step 8, again, the spreadsheet. This is a list of all of your scenes. Now, a scene is a collection of actions in one place, one time, and from one perspective. When one place, meaning you're in a room, you're on a spaceship, you're just doing one thing, and if any of these 3 things change, you've then started another scene. And this is where I go in and I start filling out my information. For example, row 3 here, this is my hero. My hero, she is starting, and this is her ordinary world. It's on a university campus, and then you can see over there, this is all of the stuff that happens in this one scene. And oh yeah, and I'm a business person, so I used a lot of spreadsheets. So this is my way of doing it. You don't have to use a spreadsheet, but it makes sorting and moving things around a lot easier if you do a spreadsheet. But it is there. It's it it has its drawbacks, but it has its benefits aside. But yeah, this is good stuff. Okay, so you list all of the scenes. Yeah, running on a rooftop. If your hero and heroine are running across the rooftops, that's a scene. When they go into a building, that's another scene. Okay. All right, now step 9. We're getting near the end. And again, Discovery writers, stick with me. Stick with me. We got this. Randy Ingermanson credited the idea from Dwight Swain about writing the perfect scene using the scene sequel method and using what's called a motivational reaction unit. Now, we're actually making a lot really good time in this presentation. My clock is up there. So we may be able to talk a little bit more about that, but I didn't want to get into it. But I would recommend advancedfictionwriting.com, Writing the Perfect Scene. The link is at the bottom of the screen, where you then have each scene. Yeah, and Raven White, yeah, using index card or post-it notes, same thing. Each post-it note, each card, or each row in my spreadsheet is what you can do, and you can post it, and you know what's going to happen in that scene. And on that scene or on that thing, you have your location, your date, your point of view characters, your synopsis, how does it advance the story, the scene goal, scene conflict, scene disaster, or the scene reactions, the sequel reaction, sequel dilemma, or sequel decision. Again, I could do a whole hour on how to do scene sequel and the MRUs, or the motivation reaction units. And yeah, OneNote is a good thing. Evernote is a good thing. Scrivener is great for planning this out virtually as well. Now, for me, this is an example of one of the cards or scene plans that I create for one of my novels. And you can see here, I have my ordinary world. I advance my story. What is exciting that pulls the reader forward? Why does this scene even matter? Because if you can't explain why a scene helps the reader understand what's happening in the story, maybe you need to get rid of that scene. Because those of you who have read Moby Dick can understand how everything works on a whaling ship. He spends chapters on how to tie knots. You know what? You don't need that in more modern stories, if it doesn't help pull the reader into the story or pull the characters through the action, you really need to consider removing that as well. Okay? And so, does this look like a ton of detail? Yes, it is. But for me, as the heart, as the outliningest outliner who's ever outlined, I need this for me to write fiction. But your mileage may vary. Okay, and so, yeah. Okay, finally. Oh, and I'm sorry, Moby Dick is being auto-censored for some odd reason. Why the title of a book, Moby Dick, doesn't work in my auto mod. I can't imagine why. Oh well. Okay, so here we come to the step 10. Finally, step 10. Write your novel. Shannon Hale said, I'm writing a first draft and reminding myself that I'm simply shoveling sand into a box so that later I can build castles. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We are not making sure that we are in a perfect draft the first time through. We are only getting enough information in that we can have something to edit. We are making sure that all of the details are in there. Or even if some details are missing, we can get that information in there in a later draft. Because whether we're an outliner or we are a pantser, we must go back and rewrite our novels. Novels are not perfectly done the first time through, the 5th time through, the 12th time through. So be very generous with yourselves as you are working on your novel. Just don't worry too much if it's a piling heap of a garbage dumpster fire. You can put the fire out. Okay? And of course, just keep writing. The important thing about this process is, and the biggest shame that I see with this is that people don't write the novel. They get through this process and then they poop out at the end, or they tire out. Sorry, they tire out at the end because they've done all of this work, but then they don't finish the novel. So, regardless of where you decide to put this 10th step into it, you need to write it. And then you come back and you edit. We are not required to send out our first draft. If you send out your first draft, I would strongly encourage you to not do that. Okay? And yes, writing sprints with writer Greg every morning, Monday through Saturday at 7 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time is a wonderful time to keep writing on your novel. That's a nasty plug. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I can't believe I did 40 slides in 40 minutes. I'm feeling pretty good here. But that means this is now the time for you to ask your questions about the presentation, and when we can go back and through this to be able to see if there's anything I have. I got 20 minutes to fill, so please submit your questions. All right. Now, I am available at writergreg.com and also twitch.tv/writergreg. As I said before, I stream every Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time for 2 hours during the weekdays and 4 hours on Saturday. And let me just get rid of this, and we can. Okay, so so this is WriterGreg.com. I have a newsletter. So if you come here to WriterGreg.com and you fill out your name, email address, and you tell me what you're interested in, I will send you the presentation slides. Or you can DM me through Twitch. No, don't. I'd prefer you not DM me through Twitch. Discord. Sorry. If you could write DM me through Discord, I will then send you the slides, and either via email or some other way. So please join me. Please feel free to contact me as so that you can have these slides. And as you can see, the notes, my writing notes with each of them. Okay. All right. Questions? uh, Anyone have? Okay, so this is where I'm going to stare into your soul and wait for questions. Okay, yes, let's go back to the motivational reaction unit. Um, and please, if you can, uh, put the questions the in the chat as no redeem the lemon point. I would appreciate that. Okay, quickly, who created the 9-plot dot? The 9-plot dot was Derek Murphy, creativeindie.com/plot dot. If you just so SLFunk, if you query plot doc and Derek Murphy, um, that would be the person who did that. Okay, about how long are your outlines using this system? I'm afraid my outlines are outliney enough. Okay, my outlines are extremely long because I go overboard with my outlines. Oh, they're not outliney enough. Okay, you got to understand, I am, let's go into, okay, World Anvil. I use World Anvil for recording all of my information, and of course, all right. I'll just, so articles and categories. Where are we? No, plot in progress. So now we're looking behind the curtain here. Okay, plots in progress. Come on. Oh, there we go. Okay, the Runaways. Let's do the detailed novel synopsis here. It feels like we're a bunch of pantsers trying to understand the plotter language. Maybe, but that's okay. Wrong button. Okay, so here, for my novel, it's called Dragon and Phoenix. Here's my teaser, my mini synopsis, my one summary paragraph, some other ones, old blurbs, and here's my one-page summary for Act 1, Act 2, midpoint, and then we get into the detailed stuff. So what I'm showing you right now is my my 4-page summary. And you can see here how long this is. Okay, so let me just cut to the chase. Let's go to that. Wordcounter.net, I think, is it? Wordcounter. Yeah. All right, so my outline, And this is not even the outline of the summary. My 4-page outline is 6,815 words. Okay, like I said, I'm the outliningest outliner who has ever outlined. So as a discovery writer, your outline makes me both scared and envious. Well, I tried to pants a story, and it failed miserably. Okay. Oh yeah, it included some rounded links and the type offset. Yeah. Okay. So let's just round it off at 6,000 words. That's fair. That is fair. Let's go to another one. Let's see. Here is a short story. It's called The Runaway's Return. This is a short story, and this is the one I did a screen grab for the PowerPoint presentation. And that is one scene right there. My first scene is this. Now, I wrote this part in an early step. Then I wrote this information. Then I wrote this information. And with those 3 parts of the scene combined, I then have my scene plot points right here. So now when I go through and write my novel or write my short story, I am only talking about this right here. Okay? So that's an important thing to understand. I'm not looking at all of that. I'm saying, okay, Lev is entering and providing food to the tables. Kor and 3 others are carrying the platters. That's the first thing. Okay, Emil starts eating from the platter, complaining about the lack of variety, tormenting and verbally abusing Lev as if he's responsible. Okay, then I write a couple paragraphs about that. Then I go to the next one, I write a couple paragraphs. And this is just allowing me, I don't have to think about what happens next. I just read my sentence and then I write 4 or 5 paragraphs about it. Okay, so let me come through here, the chat. Oh, but for me, when I tried to pants a story, when I tried to discovery write a novel, those were the years I failed NaNoWriMo. I stared at the screen. What's next? I couldn't move on. So it is a lot of, what your mileage may vary. For me, I did I tried it because I wanted to see if I was doing outlining because I wanted to or because I have to. And after my failures with discovery writing, I realized that I have to outline or I'm not going to be productive. Okay. So that's, again, your mileage may vary. Yeah, my middle has to be rock solid or the whole thing will be a mushy pile of goo. Very true. From a pantser's point of view, how would you go about applying the snowflake method in retrospect? Wonderful question. I'm glad I was able to see that. What I would do is what I did with the novel here. What I did is I would read my book, and every couple of paragraphs I would write a sentence summarizing what it was. So I would actually follow the snowflake method in reverse. I would say, okay, so I have 60,000 words. Okay, I would then write a summary of it that was about 30,000 words as plot beats. And then I would say, okay, maybe I'd do another round and I would get it down to maybe 15,000 words, just highlight beats. And then I'll see, okay, of the plot points that I have here listed, I've distilled out of my story. Is this a hero's journey? Is this a romancing the beat story? Does this fit in the plot dot? And then I would start reshuffling all of those things until it fit into a structure. And then I would notice, hopefully, what is missing? What do I not have? And then I would insert things back in. And then I would then rewrite the story. Personally, I would rewrite the story from scratch. If you're well organized enough or you're using Scrivener, I would then just reshuffle all of the things and then rework the transitions between scenes. So hopefully that answered your question. Sometimes Raven, personally, I would stop around step 4, write, then use the rest of the steps in editing to refine the story. Yes, perfect. Yeah. And that's why I said in the beginning of this, yeah, it's the step 10 is the flexible step. I like doing this before I write because I often can find broken bits in my story when I've only invested 500 words, because that's easier to fix than a novel. Yeah, ATW writes this. That is very true. And that's why I outline, because I don't want to write my novel 3 times. I want to write the first draft of my novel once and then spend my second, third, and fourth as working on refining the story and not major construction. Because the problem that I had with my pantsing novel is that it was so broken that it wasn't worth salvaging. There was nothing in there, and I did 50. I did no, I only got about 30,000 words with that story before it just completely died out. And so I went back and I did what I've described to you. I took out the snippets, I reorganized everything, and then I inserted what needs to be fixed. And then I rewrote the novel. ATW writes, okay, I still usually do one complete rewrite, same, but before it was like 4 or 5 rewrites. Yeah. Oh, and C Star, that as soon C Star, pantsing is good for short stories, but very difficult for novels. True, but again, I have a hard time with that as well. So I outline my short stories just as much as I do my novels. Okay. All right. So it's 5 minutes to the top of the hour. So thank you so much for everyone for being here. I do hope that you enjoyed this information. I do hope that it works well. So please sign up for my email newsletter. Direct message me on Discord if you would like the slides. And please consider following me and join me every morning, Monday through Saturday, where we do morning marches. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's now time to raid Coffee Quills. Is